But yeah, and one thing that I will mention as well is that, I think a big part of related to what I was talking about with men and how we process things, I think, emotional intelligence is sorely lacking. And I think that a big part of emotional intelligence is like being willing to, admit when you're
Messing
feeling
up
things,
and
yeah, when
feeling
you're messing
things.
things, when you're messing with things. It's like, God, it's so, I don't know what it is, but there's like
Dude, maybe it's a Latino
such a
thing.
deep pride. Yeah, there's such a deep pride that you want to be so I don't know, you want to be like established, you want to be solid, you want to be kind of like untouchable, you want to be badass, you want to be like I can fight lions with my bare fists. I can like, I
I'll be
can,
dead.
yeah, I can have a girl and also have another girl at the same time. I can have this job and work really hard, but then, I get home and I keep working and grind set and all this stuff. But then like we're so fucked up. Like a
I
lot of men
I
are so fucked up, but they
I
just never
agree.
say anything about it. You could have a guy 2 days away from, and this sounds harsh, but you can have a guy 2 days away from committing suicide, and you talk to me like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, nothing." Like,
Yeah. I know a lot of people like that.
bro, yeah, I'm
Not
like
dropping
that.
names.
I'm like that. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. Whatever, it's okay.
No, dude, talk to me,
You know
man.
what I'm saying?
Like, I'm gonna hit you up.
Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned perfectly. I think it's a part of being like, I mean, it's a part of being a man, but I think Latino families have it pretty
It's
bad.
like embedded in us.
Yeah, yeah. My dad is so stoic.
I told Anthony this. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get my dad in therapy one day. It's gonna happen. We need that to happen. And I know what you mean
Yeah.
with like being stoic and just kind of like is rigid like a good
rigid.
way
Yeah.
to describe
Rigid
it.
is a good
you
way
know?
to describe it. Yeah.
And I think my mom and I have like such a really good relationship. And I went out with someone one time and it was so funny. She like called me out and she was like, all Latino men are like mama's boys. And I was like, yeah, man, I love my mom. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think like because of our dynamic and
Mhm.
like I learned a lot from her too. Like it's allowed me to shift my perspective,
Yeah.
especially during the
Yeah.
pandemic when everybody started to like
Yeah.
use their brain
Mhm.
and like reflect a lot.
Yeah.
It just shifts the tone of
Yeah.
like how we approach dating, how we approach our handling our emotions, how we approach like our own introspection and self-reflection. And like I just try to carry that as much as I can because I know that it lacks within us a lot.
Yeah. I will also say though too, on the same coin, I do feel like, I guess maybe it happened mostly because of church and where I grew up, or like the way I grew up. But I think it did get to the point where I started to see my dad kind of open up a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also related to the fact that we live such a difficult life, that it kept us pretty close. It kept us together and it kept us dependent, and in a good way. And I did see a lot of moments where my dad did have to like break down and he couldn't really hide it anymore. And I think that, I did say my dad is a very stoic person, but I think the generation before his was way, way, way worse in terms of their emotional like availability, because, this is the way they grew up, is very traditional and very kind of like, they didn't have much time, to be frank. But my dad had a little bit more, and then I had a lot more time because of all the hard work that he did.
Yeah.
And I think that I was able to kind of, through my mom as well. And I think especially with moms, they know they're with someone, they've lived a life with someone who probably has trouble with their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when they see a boy, they're like, you don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to have these troubles. You can open up to me, And I think that having a mom is a really big, having a mom that you are close to is a really big part of like being a more well-rounded adult later on in life.
I think every generation just tries to do something better.
Yeah,
and I'm
we're trying
excited
to
to see
better,
what like our generation does. Like we already are on such a like, I don't know how like we like catapulted like with therapy and just self-awareness and being inclusive and like just all these different things that like millennials and Gen Z is now doing. It's very interesting. So I'm very curious to see like where things go.
Yeah.
I always have this joke, and this is not propaganda, I promise you, but I would always make this joke of like, end child trauma by not having children. And like, I feel like that's what, with people doing things much later in life, and some people deciding, maybe it's not for me. And it's like, oh, there you go.
Well, we're also adding, the addendum is like, end child trauma by not having children yet.
Or
like,
that, exactly. Yeah, I like that. I like that better.
You need to develop yourself before you start trying to develop someone else. Like,